Okay, so I wanted to go over some of the new glitches based on the discussion we had in the team chat, just to show off some of the newly approved glitches and my setups for them and how to get them more consistently. Also wanted to go over when these glitches would be situationally useful, because they're not all glitches that you're going to want to do 100% of the time. For some of them, you're going to only really do them in certain situations. So we'll discuss that a little bit as well. But we will start with Icebreaker, because that is the most impactful glitch. And if you got Cane of Samaria, then you're going to be doing it every time you're in Ice Palace. So obviously, Samaria is hard required here. This does not work without it. The other thing you're going to have to keep in mind for this glitch is, am I full clearing this dungeon or am I go moding this? Obviously, this glitch is going to save much more time if you're full clearing. But also the thing to keep in mind is if you are go moding this dungeon with Icebreaker, you need to make sure that you are hitting the switch in this north room here. So let's say I'm go moding this dungeon. I'm going to need to flip this switch and actually head back out this doorway like I normally would if I were doing normal routing. And I'm going to have to hit this switch. The reason for this is that if you are go moding, then you are probably not going to be getting the big key, in which case you're not going to actually be able to get into the room with the switch that you have to Samaria down. But now that we are here, but obviously if you're full clearing, then you don't have to worry about that because you're probably going to find the big key and you'll be able to just do the dungeon normally. But from here, what we're going to do is we're actually going to stay in this doorway. We want to make sure that we're in line with it. If you ever get too far up or down, you just go back into the doorway. You don't have to transition. You just have to get back in the doorway to get your vertical positioning correct. And then we're going to move into this wall here. And we need to actually move ourselves one frame left again. So I like to sword buffer. Some people like to do hold out the sword. This will be positioned differently. I think this is the correct position right here if you're facing to the right. My preferred method is to sword buffer left. And what we're looking for is for Link's shadow, the left part of it, to be midway into that light part of the door frame. So if you'll see here, this is the correct shadow positioning you want. And then what you need to do is you actually need to hit down and left at exactly the same time. And you'll see here that this is something I actually struggle to get consistently. It's something I see people who are new to the trick struggle with as well. So what you want is this. And then from there, with the cane out, we can actually hit Y and release down and right at the exact same time we hit Y. So the way that I finagled this was, you normally don't have your cane out at this point anyways. So I just went ahead and combined the switching over to cane with my down and left movement. So what we're going to do is we're going to get in a position, menu, and then we're going to switch to Samaria. And you're going to hit start. And then as the screen is transitioning away, you're going to hold down in right. And boom. And you'll know you've done this correctly if Link is facing downwards. If he's facing to the right when you do this, then you've done it incorrectly. But from here, what we need to do is we need to get a one frame movement left. The consistent method involves pause buffering, but that is a little bit slower. I'll show it off here. So we've pause buffered to the left. Now we're going to hit start and hold down, and Link goes through the wall. Like I said, that's more consistent, but we want something a little bit faster. So what we're going to do is get the same Samaria block positioning, and we're going to tap left, hold down. Now, you'll notice here that Link is actually facing right, even though I hit down. this means I've done it correctly. So if I continue to hold down, Link will go through the wall. However, you're not always going to get this unbuffered. So you'll notice here now that Link is facing downwards after I did the left movement. This means that you didn't get it one frame, but you can actually keep trying from this position. But you'll notice that Link has now pushed the block too far down. From this position, this no longer works. So what you have to do is you have to actually vary your movements down and up. And you need to make sure that you're not pressing down or up for too long when you're doing this. And you see that I got it this time. But let's say you actually mess it up too much. So let's say you're here now. You can hit left and then hit up, and that'll actually push the block up. So basically, you can keep doing this over and over again until you get the one frame left movement. You just have to make sure that you're varying your down and up presses, because it doesn't matter whether you go up or down from the one frame left movement. So you can just keep trying it over and over until you get through the wall. This will save you magic, which is obviously very important in this dungeon. Because the last thing you want to do is be using a bunch of Samaria blocks and wasting all your magic. That's Icebreaker. Like I said, it is the most impactful of these. Let's talk about Diver Down now. There's two main areas that you're going to want to do Diver Down in. The first is for left side swamp. Now note that this only works your first time through the dungeon. So if you go to the back first, then this will not work. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to steal the key from this main hub room, and we're actually going to go straight back into this switch room. And we're going to intentionally flood this key. Now, this next step involves putting down a bomb. I would not put down the bomb before you hit the switch, because it causes a pretty crazy amount of lag if you do. But we're going to flood the key, then we're going to drop a bomb here. We're going to get into this doorway and go transition into the next room before the bomb actually triggers the switch. Important that you need to make sure that the bomb has actually gone into its explosion animation before you actually transition. But you need to make sure it doesn't actually trigger the switch. So now, if we go down here and get this firebar out of the way, now we can go ahead and get ourselves set up. So for the bomb setup, I use the shadow as usual. And this is the position we want to be in. So what I'm looking for here is on the bottom left of Link's shadow, there are 2 white pixels forming a small little rectangle in between the darker pixels. This is the exact step you're going to want for the bomb to be placed. And then we're going to jump into the water, and we need to, while Link is in the air, hold down and right. As soon as Link hits the water and starts swimming, we're going to release down and simply hold right. This is the part that I feel like takes the most practice. So I would just practice this movement over and over again just to get used to it. But from here, it's up, down right, hold right. And if you've done it correctly, Link will jump off to the right side of the staircase and be pressed up against this railing. If Link goes in the middle, then you have unfortunately done it incorrectly. But all told, in full motion, this is what it should look like. Now, it can be a little finicky, and I actually did not get it there. This is why I find the bomb setup to be a little bit less consistent than the Samaria setup. But if you find yourself without Samaria in this dungeon, then you're going to have to do this. But And you see there I jumped out the middle. That means I did not let go of down quickly enough. That should be it. There we go. So the bomb positioning is easy enough to get. What you're really going to have to get used to is the movement of jumping in the water and doing that consistently. But once we're actually down here, now we can actually go up here. The bomb animation triggers and the pegs go up into the position we want them to be in, and we can take the key from here even though it has been flooded. And just go back up the stairs, hop in, and we can go clear the left side swamp. For Samaria, this one's a little bit more simple. It relies on the same water movement to get yourself correctly positioned. But what we're going to do is we're going to line ourselves up right up against this railing. And we're going to go all the way to the left, turn around, and hit Samaria. You want it to be roughly here, maybe a little bit further over. But what you don't want is you don't want it to be flush with this railing. If that happens, then this won't work. So it needs to be right about there. And then we're going to do our same movement to get ourselves into position. Hold your sword, and then hold up and right to push yourself onto the railing, and then jump in. So once again, same water movement. Hold up and right with the sword out, and there we go. Pretty simple once you kind of get used to this. And like I said, the part that requires the most practice is this. But if you can get this consistently, this saves a ton of screen transitions when you're trying to do left side swamp the first time. The second place where this is useful is going to be once you have gone to the back. So normally you'd head over to the left here, push this statue onto the switch, and then head to this first door. We are actually going to skip that and go down this staircase. I'd recommend killing the enemies here, and then the bomb setup is going to require you to get into, once again, the correct position here. This is what you're looking for. The visual cue I actually like to use is the top of Link's sprite should be just right along the edge of this staircase, and you'll notice that there's like a vertical triangle in the middle of that. I like that to be kind of just slightly off center to the top of Link's head in this position here. You can also maybe use the shadow and get used to this positioning. But like I said, I find the top of the head to be the best visual cue to use. And from here, it's the same exact thing. We're going to drop a bomb, go in, and you'll see that I actually did it incorrectly that time. But yeah, we want, if I get this visual cue, there we go. Make sure you have bomb out is important. And this is why I find the bomb set up to be more finicky than the Samaria setups. And I have trouble getting these as consistently. Man, and all of a sudden I can't do it. I might be doing something wrong here, actually. Either way, the bomb setup here is like I said, it's the same as our Samaria, or same as the one we did for left side. With Samaria, however, this becomes a lot more simple. We're going to go over to this left side and push ourselves up against this railing. And we're going to walk to the right and drop a Samaria block right about here. Similarly to the way we did on the left side, we don't want it flush with the railing. We want it just to the left. And then we're going to get ourselves in the same position with the water movement, hold out our sword, and I think, there we go, and boom. Like I said, a lot more consistent than bomb setup. Though I'm going to have to practice that bomb setup again because I was failing it a lot for some reason. But yet again, line ourselves up with this, walk over, push the block there, get our water movement, hold our sword out, hold up and right, and then push ourselves in, jump through the railing. The last thing I wanted to cover, oh, and I guess just for this one here, honestly, I would only do this room, dive down in this room, if I wanted to get these two chests. If I were full clearing or I was looking for another sword or silvers. If you are go moding this dungeon, I honestly would recommend skipping this. It really doesn't save you that much time over just doing it normally, especially if you're not getting it consistently. It saves you a few seconds if you do get it consistent, but the other way is just much safer. The last thing I want to talk about is the Stair Extension. The two places where this is useful are in Pod and Misery Mire. So this glitch in Pod is going to be useful if we are moving from the right side over here. Should probably switch to Samara. But this glitch is useful if we've gone through the bow lock section and we want to move from there to the back of Palace of Darkness. So if we're trying to go from here to the back, obviously normally what we'd have to do is we'd have to run over here, deal with these guys, drop a Samaria block, hit it, and hit the switch. And that'll get us through over here. But we can actually save ourselves a little bit of time by doing the Stair Extension. So the first thing you want to do is you're going to want to come out of this room and immediately line yourself up with the bottom railing. You need to do this trick pretty fluidly or else the beetles will get in your way. But we're going to line ourselves up with the bottom railing and drop a Samaria block to our north. And then once we've done that, we actually need to just line ourselves up with the bottom of this pit here, or ledge of this pit. And if we dash from the edge of this pit, I think because I laid that to the south, it didn't work. Generally speaking, the Samaria block only needs to be on the screen. But you'll see there how we actually got some extra momentum and dashed through the pegs. So this is just, the Samaria block can be anywhere. This is just my favorite positioning. Again, go to south, drop it up, line ourselves up with the edge of the pit, and dash upwards. That'll push us through. And you kind of have to practice this so you can get it all in one fluid motion. Like I said, otherwise... Oh, it did work from there. So you can do it either south or north. The only reason I wouldn't do it to your left is because then it's just going to get in your way. And you want to do it as quickly as possible to give yourself enough time to line up properly with the bottom edge of the pit. So yeah, this is, as I said, only really useful if you are moving to the back from the bowlock section. The last one is in Misery Mire. This one is much more situational. And I would really only do this if I were in a Key Sanity seed where I wanted to full clear Misery Mire. So if I were in that situation, what I'd want to do is I'd want to go through here and do the fire locked section. I'd hit the switch, go do the map chest and the cutscene room, and then I'd come back to the hub, main lobby, so I could get this chest here. And from here, then we want to go back to right. Normally, you'd have to dash all the way down and then walk all the way back up and then go down the staircase. We can save ourselves a little bit of time by doing this stair extension. So what we're going to do is we're going to get ourselves lined up in this doorway, push ourselves against the railing, straight down, and then we're going to sword buffer up 1 frame. And you'll know you've done this correctly if you have this small little triangle below Link's shadow. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to hit left and A at exactly the same time, but we want to make sure that we only tap left and we let go of it immediately, but we hold the A button. So, like so. Important that you do not hold left, because if you do, Link will just grab onto the railing instead of dashing. Or you can just not get the left input at all. But you'll see here, if I'm holding left any longer than just a button press, then Link just simply grabs on. But if I just tap it and let go, Link goes through the railing, down the staircase. Very situational, but if you find yourself in a situation where you need to go from this chest here over to the right side of Mire, then this way will save you a little bit of time. And that about covers it. Like I said, the Icebreaker is going to be the most impactful. If you have Kane, you want to do it pretty much every single time. Diver down, a little more situational in these 2 stair extensions, only if you're routing the dungeons in this very specific manner. But that about covers it. Hope this was helpful, and good luck with learning these tricks.